basically, it's getting to the point where it's one of the best shows around that you haven't heard of. Mozart in the Jungle.
Hey, Mozart in the Jungle.
In the Jungle.
See what we did there? Which perplexingly does not actually involve actual Mozart in an actual jungle, which kind of upset me, but also would have been quite a short-lived TV show.
It's on Amazon Prime Video.
The only thing I think people seem to know Amazon Prime Video for is that show with those guys from the BBC with cars. But if you're bored of that after three minutes, maybe 4. There's so much other cool stuff on Amazon Prime.
There are loads, but one of the things that's our favourite, and he's returning for a 3rd season this December, is Mozart in the Jungle.
Best Christmas present ever.
So, what is it, Joe?
Well, I believe Mozart in the Jungle is actually based on a book.
Yes.
The long title, I think, is called something like Sex, Drugs and Classical Music, which, I mean, all 3 things that sound awesome.
So,
right?
those are my 3 favourite things.
Yeah, Sex, Drugs,
well, there's Whiskers on Kittens and
Raindrops and Roses.
Raindrops and Roses.
Set in this fabulous orchestra with all these talented, genius people, and our 2 stars are at the kind of at the different ends of the spectrum when it comes to looking into the orchestra, but kind of are both slightly outsiders. So obviously we have Rodrigo,
and he is the sexy conductor, played by Gael Garcia Bernal.
Yes, the sexy conductor. He's so sexy he doesn't even need a last name. He's just Rodrigo. Yeah. We've got no idea what his last name is.
It's D'Souza. And he comes into the orchestra and is like, "Hey everyone, look at me, I'm Gael Garcia Bernal." Now, like,
we're going to rip up this hymn sheet. In the wake of, what is it? It's Malcolm McDowell, isn't it?
Malcolm McDowell. Maybe we should start with Malcolm McDowell. Malcolm McDowell of A Clockwork Orange plays a grumpy, angry, rich white conductor man. But then he has to make way because they basically kick him out or he retires and they bring in Rodrigo.
Does he also do children's parties?
I think he's amazing.
You've got the 2 of them playing off against each other because classical music, supposedly traditionally quite a stuffy, old worldy type thing. So naturally, the first thing you do is shove a sexy conductor in the front row and make everybody kind of think, alright, we'll pay attention to him as he shakes his things around. He doesn't even use battles, it's weird.
It's called conducting. I like the fact that Rodrigo spends most of the time dressed in just crappy clothes while everyone else is in tuxes or whatever. He's just there with a t-shirt.
Slightly kind of Don Quixote-esque.
So, a classical music comedy series, which you're probably already thinking is boring and stuffy.
No, definitely not.
But it's not.
Classical music is not boring and stuffy. That's the point.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's really rare that you get a TV show that actually bothers to take classical music seriously. And also, with a sense of humour. So you get these wonderful scenes where you just have the whole orchestra just playing a piece. And you genuinely think, that's really nice, isn't it? Wouldn't have heard that otherwise.
Yeah.
I like the fact that their end credits are just round bits of classical music.
So, I mean, classical music traditionally has this whole kind of flavour around it that you need to be all sophisticated and suave and well-educated and born in Buckinghamshire or wherever in order to be able to appreciate it, which we know fundamentally just isn't true, right?
No. I'm from Essex. I like Mozart in the Jungle.
Yeah, I mean, see, it can appeal to absolutely everybody. Yeah, I can feel myself smiling even though it's...
Yeah. I don't like opera.
I love opera.
But we both just smiled at someone singing a bit of opera.
So obviously we've established that we have a sexy male lead to kind of lure in the punters. And obviously we need somebody young, somebody engaging, somebody who can be our kind of wide-eyed guide through this world, but is also just a kind of new, fresh face. And we have that in Lola Kirk, who plays Hayley, the talented young oboist who gets her first big break with the orchestra. She is the young, the 5th oboist in this orchestra?
I think she's the 2nd. Basically, right, in an orchestra they got chairs, and they number them.
Musical chairs.
Number 1.
She gets her dream chance to audition in front of Rodrigo, who is looking for a kind of fresh new talent to shake things up. But the nice thing about the way that they kind of introduce her is she has a scene where she goes and plays her piece, kind of, and they all do it behind screens so he doesn't kind of see what they look like or make snap judgments. So she's there, kind of wrapped up in playing.
He's quirky. He's a bit weird.
Yeah, he's got a class. He's got a pet parrot.
Did we mention that he was sexy? I think we need to make that more obvious.
He's quite sexy. The nice thing about Lola Kirk is Highlight. Oh, he calls her Highlight. It's really adorable and sweet, and it means it's impossible for us to ever call her Hayley Rutledge, which is a real name because he pronounces it Hailai.
Hailai.
Which is adorable and also quite a fun thing to shout at each other across the corridor.
Hailai!
Hailai!
She's got a fringe!
Hailai!
Fringe Hailai!
Hailai! So after she's done her audition, she gets home to discover that her cool, bohemian, fun-loving housemate is throwing a party. And what other house party have you ever seen descend into a drinking game, where the challenge of the drinking game is to get one person with their oboe, and I think her rival plays the flute. And they play a very complex version of Spin the Bottle, except it's spin the dial, pick a classical music genre, do a shot, and then play something in that genre. It's mad! It seems like a very hipster niche, but also intrinsically young person thing to do. I challenge you not to watch the first episode and just feel an absolute, almost kind of beatific feeling of joy just watching it.
Beatific. This is for everyone.
Even
for
if
everyone.
that's a word.
Even
I don't
if you
care
use
if it's
that
a
word. It is, but no one uses it. Well, what I found was, I started watching it, and then I stopped watching the first episode, but it turned out actually I'd watched 7.
Yeah.
It just goes. It's really, you get like easily listening music.
Yeah.
This is like easy watching television,
Yeah.
which sounds like an insult, but it just is. It just flows beautifully.
Yeah,
it's really, 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 really easy to watch. No effort involved whatsoever, and you will laugh repeatedly. You won't expect it every time. You don't expect it, but you laugh. It's just very,
and
very
fun and simple, and you don't feel like anything bad is going to happen in this world, which is obviously nonsense because there are conflicts, there are all the individuals with their horrible, tangled, messy love lives. With
like season 2 there's a whole split between the people who run the orchestra and the orchestra themselves, and they're negotiating over contract issues and stuff like that. And again, that sounds boring and stuffy. It's not. It's genuinely interesting.
Yeah, because it is a world that we have not really seen very much of on television.
Mm-hmm.
It's people that you kind of knew existed and you can sort of understand how they run their days, but at the same time you never really thought anything of the people who wear the smart suits or the beautiful dresses and play Wagner for you of an evening. And all the stuff that's bubbling way below the surface of these amazing pieces that they're playing, the human stories, that they've just this rich, beautiful show with all these wonderful, lovely elements and fantastic cast. And it's like it reminds me of A Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra, but for grown-ups.
Sure. Yeah. It's a grown-ups person's guide
to the orchestra. With Gael Garcia Bernal being sexy.
He's so sexy. But yeah, and then with the whole like legal union stuff, you have what's his name? The guy off the Orange ad.
Orange ad guy. Does anyone know his actual name?
Comment below if you know what the hell that man's name is.
Because every time I see him in things, it's just the Orange advert guy.
Orange ad guy is the head of the kind of orchestra,
The
board.
money man.
He's the money man, Mr. Money, but Mr. Orange.
Mr. Orange Money. He's Donald Trump! Oh, shit.
But yeah, but he's in it as well, he's good. Who else got? Saffron Burrows is in it.
Whoa, she hasn't aged. It's really weird.
Hasn't aged down.
Has not aged.
She plays Cynthia, who's like the experienced cello player who knows all the buttons to push of all the people. Has a bit of a thing going on with Malcolm McDowell.
She has a bit of a thing going on with quite a lot of people.
Basically, if you ever wanted to see Malcolm McDowell and Saffron Burrows have a believable relationship, this is the show for you.
There is a niche that's definitely been filled there. Yeah.
That sounds wrong.
Yeah. I really want to know what happens if I Google Sexy Rodrigo.
Oh! Rodrigo Levine! Oh! No! Oh, there's more! Basically, 2 lessons here. 1, watch Mozart in the Jungle. 2, don't Google Sexy Rodrigo because...
Oh, no, don't do it. Yeah, I think what's also really nice is the way that the characters' personalities match up quite well with their instruments. So Saffron Burrows' Cynthia, she's kind of quite kind of mellow, quite seductive, quite sensual, but very soothing and calming, which is quite like the cello that she plays. And then Rodrigo, who aside from being a sexy conductor, is also a violinist, which is actually I think quite a common thing for conductors.
Fiery.
Yeah, fiery, kind of centre of attention, but able to make and break your heart simultaneously through what he plays. And then Lola Kirk, again, with the oboe, which can be an incredible standout piece, or a standout instrument, but is kind of not as often given a starring role, which is why the times where she is, it's so kind of nice and rare for her.
You can tell a lot about a person from their instrument.
Yeah, yeah, you can tell so much about people from the kind of the choice of instruments.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm really excited for season 3 because we kind of get to see how far Highlight has come since season 1, when she was obviously kind of quite naive, quite new to the whole thing, but she's really getting a sense of who she is as a young woman, but also who she is as an artist. I think what was interesting in the first season and a bit in the second was her relationship with Alex, a dancer, who another creative, another artist, but you noticed the differences between their worlds, even though they are both creatives, the relationships that go on between other kind of men and women and women and women and men and men in the orchestra, they understand each other a lot better because they all live in the same world, whereas Alex and Hayley, both creatives, both artists, but don't understand each other in quite the same way. But Hayley never loses sight of her desire to know who she is and understand her own talent and make the most of it, which is really inspiring.
Yeah. How is she not a massive star?
I love that dress.
Seriously, how is she not really, really famous?
She's amazing. And I like the way that the show does that as well. She gets more confident. The show seems to understand its own tone a lot better.
Yeah.
Like season 1 is good. Season 2 is fantastic. And it just knows itself just that little bit more. So Rodrigo, for example, he could be a stereotype, but there's so much more to him than that. He's actually a character, and he could just be a load of catchphrases. Hello. But in season 2, you see a lot more of that really developed.
Yeah. The thing I like about Rodrigo is, and how he's grown as a character, is we joke about sexy Rodrigo, so sexy.
I saw it this morning.
His seductiveness and his ability to convince people and win people over comes from this incredibly pure place. Like
it's just passion, isn't it? It's just, even Mr. Orange Man, Orange Ad guy, he becomes a bit more of an Orange Ad guy. And Gloria, played by Bernadette Peters, who's kind of she's sort of like, imagine the friendly person on board, the kind of the link between the orchestra and the board members. So she's in the middle of this whole kind of legal dispute. She's fantastic. There's this entire episode where you get to see her kind of sing and do dance, and entirely different side to her that you don't see.
Her own passion and love for it that lies beneath her desire for it to be a commercial success. That's a really interesting point about how all the notes start to play together. I think in the first series, when we briefly meet Rodrigo's wife, Anna Maria, who is this kind of fiery, tempestuous performer on another level, and when she plays with the orchestra, which she does on occasion, it doesn't work because she overpowers and she jars, but because the orchestra themselves are all so well connected and know each other, they work a lot better. And as a result, as you say, once the show is established, the dynamic of its core cast, so they can get the bass right, then they can start to riff and do interesting things. But we know we've got this foundation of a good team and a good cast that can stretch to it.
So it's almost like an orchestra.
I mean, we're really hammering this metaphor home, aren't we?
Music!
Mozart.
He's dead now, so you're not going to meet Mozart.
No.
But you can hear Mozart because of the music, but you can see the TV show. Because Mozart didn't have a TV show, because he was alive in the days when they didn't have TV.
That was tragic.
He was before TV. So 3 things. So 1, Mozart's dead. Yeah, he's dead, that's it. He's dead. Right? Yeah. Okay. Number 2, see Mozart in the Jungle, because it's really good. And number 3, don't Google Sexy Rodrigo.
Oh my god, don't Google Sexy Rodrigo.
You can't unsee that. But also a 4th thing, which is the same as the second. Go watch it.
Yeah, just freaking watch it.
Stop.
Turn us off.
Yeah,
We're rambling.
go.
Go. Bye bye.
He's dead.
Highlight.
Highlight.